Hey, how's it going everyone? So I just finished my Gothic 3 Let's Play as a mage and I had a lot of fun with this class, and after finishing the entire Gothic trilogy playing as a mage, I think that the spells in Gothic 3 were the most fun I've had so far. So I've decided to make a video ranking them from S rank to D rank, with S being the best and D being the worst. So let me explain to you these ranks really quick and then we can jump into the video. Like I said, S rank is where the best spells are at. These spells stand above all others and are effective at what they do. Plain and simple. A rank will be for good and very good spells. These spells are reliable and can be used in most situations. B rank spells are just okay. They work. They offer some utility but generally have a more niche use. C rank spells are generally overshadowed by other spells or simply don't work as well as you'd expect them to. They provide some limited benefits, but it's nothing you can't do without. D rank is for bad spells. These things should probably not be in the game or simply need a rework or buff. They're more for fun than actual utility. One important thing I'd like to mention is that the modded version of Gothic 3 has some quality of life changes added to the spells, and I'll show you what those are when we get there. After making playthroughs both modded and unmodded, I can say without a doubt that I prefer the modded version because these changes make the game a lot more fun. The quality of life changes added to these spells are just absolutely essential in my opinion. But I'll show you the differences and you can judge for yourselves which one you like the most. After the ranking, I'll show you some of my favorite spell combinations and which ones I thought they were the most effective. But without any further ado, let's just jump into it. And we begin with Magic of Dominance, the most balanced of the three magic schools. The first spell is Light, a B rank spell. It's a very cheap and easy to get spell which replaces the torch. Even though it provides less light than the torch, it doesn't restrict any movement and it allows you to perform any action. Whether it's casting or two-handed fighting, Light is an okay spell. I used it on pretty much every cave, every temple, every dark place. It's just good. As you can see from the footage, the torch gives more light and it looks better and more cinematic. However, you can only use one-handed actions, such as fighting with a one-handed sword. So that's just about it. Therefore, Light is better. Next up we have Cure Disease. Now, diseases are something that you contract from being damaged by a lizard or a ripper beast, and are generally cured easily with a Cure Disease potion, which are quite common and cheap. Later on in the game, you can get immunity to diseases, which renders this spell completely useless. Therefore, the Cure Disease spell will only see some use early on in the game, depending on whether or not you find potions before fighting lizards. So, it's a C rank spell. Everything I said about the Cure Disease spell is also true about the Cure Poison spell. Again, with the existence of Antidote and with the resistance to poison skill, this spell only sees use in the early parts of the game, and therefore it's also a C rank spell. Next up in A rank we have a spell which is good from the very beginning to the very end of the game, and that is Healing. This spell will heal you for 100% HP regardless of how much you currently have, which makes it better than any other potion or food that you can consume. Because it sees solid use from start to finish, it's an A rank spell. Next up we have one of the most iconic spells in all the Gothic trilogy. This was great in Gothic 1, in Gothic 2, it's still great in Gothic 3, and it will be great in Forsaken Gods. Therefore, it's an A rank spell. It's good from start all the way up until the end. It does single target damage, it has a damage over time effect, you can use it for kiting, it's just good. It's mana efficient, A rank, easily A rank. The best part about the fireball is that you can get it very early in the game and it will give you good, consistent performance throughout your playthrough. I also use it as a base for comparison for the other damaging spells in the game. What I love most about it is that unlike the previous games, this time is much easier to use, and it has a straight missile mode by tapping left click, and if you hold left click it has a homing missile mode, which is absolutely great. If I could only use one spell in the game, the fireball would be the one. Following up with another A rank spell, Heal Other is just as good as Heal, except that this one you can use on your companions, on your pets, and it heals them 100% regardless of what their current HP is. This will help you especially during combat to prevent your companions from dying, but it's also good outside of combat. Please note that companions, which are human companions, can be healed outside of combat with healing potions. However, pets can only be healed with the Heal Other spell, so that makes it extremely valuable. And now we finally have our first D rank spell, which is Flaming Sword. This spell wants to be very cinematic, it looks pretty, it's cool, alright, it's a cool spell. However, the Flaming Sword itself is just not that useful. It does about 100 damage and sometimes it causes the enemies to burn. You set them on fire, which is okay but irrelevant. If you're playing a mage, you'll likely be using staves, and if you're playing a warrior or an archer, you'll probably be using much better one-handed or two-handed swords. So that leaves Flaming Sword at 100 mana cost, just there for fun, I suppose. It doesn't scale, it just is. And the problem is, if you put it away, you cancel the spell, so you would have to recast it to draw it out again, which is very annoying. It also has a casting animation, so if you need a sword in a quick combat scenario, then this will definitely not be it, because it will get you killed for sure. You're just better off casting 3 fireballs. Alright, so next up we have Banish Evil, formerly known as Destroy Undead in Gothic 1 and Gothic 2. Destroy Undead used to destroy undead instantly with just one cast. Now it has been nerfed to just do a really high amount of damage, but at a very high mana cost. So this spell is just good against undead, of course. Well, it has one problem, it's not very mana efficient. So if you have to choose between Fireball and Destroy Undead against undead creatures, then Fireball will simply be more mana efficient. However, this kills faster because it does more damage, right, in one spell cast. So it's good in one specific scenario, and that is when you want to destroy undead priests. So those undead casters, which are extremely dangerous, if you want to destroy them or kill them before they have time to heal themselves or throw fireballs at you, then this is the spell to go to. But because it has a very niche use and only sometimes it's useful, it's only a B+. It could have been an A, but it's just not mana efficient enough. Normally I just use fireballs against undead, unless I'm fighting again a caster, and then I use Banish Evil. And now we have our first S-rank spell. Now Flame Wave was my go-to AoE for the majority of the game. It's very good, it has very high damage, it does have a high mana cost. However, if you hit at least 3 enemies in one cast, it's very good. It just saves you many times and it feels good to use. It also has a damage over time effect like the Fireball, and that helps a lot with kiting. Overall, really solid spell. It's great. I had a lot of fun using the spell. However, all that being said, remember when I said that there is a difference between vanilla unmodded Gothic 3 and modded Gothic 3? Well, this is where that difference comes into play. In the vanilla Gothic 3, the epicenter of this spell, so when you target something or you cast the spell, the epicenter or the spell itself will do damage around you. That happens in the vanilla Gothic 3 without any mods, right? So there's a huge problem with that, is that, well, you have to be close to any certain enemy or any enemy you want to damage in order to actually land the damage effect on him. So you can imagine that you go as a squishy mage to fight some whatever, and to cast something in their face is just not going to go very well, is it? And this is where the difference between the unmodded and the modded version comes into play. In the modded version, the epicenter of this spell, and other spells as well, is the target itself. So it's not you, so you can cast it from a range, and the damage will deal in a circle around your target. And I will show you in this following clips. As you can see on vanilla, when I cast the spell, nothing is happening because the targets are too far away from me. However, on the modded version, I can cast it from a range, and the target will be the epicenter of the spells, and the enemies around the target will be affected by the spell, as it should be. So if I were to give a rank to the vanilla version of Flame Wave, it would be something like a C-, because you can still use it in some extremely niche situations or with some other spell combinations, but most of the time is just too difficult or too unreasonable to do, and you're better off just spamming fireballs. However, in the modded version, the version which I prefer and I have played last, this Flame Wave is easily an S rank spell, and is one that I have used constantly throughout my playthrough. It was one of my favorite AoE spells. Alright, so I hope I was clear enough in the differences between unmodded vanilla and the modded version, and I hope I have convinced you why I prefer the modded version over the vanilla one, because personally I see a mage as someone who throws nukes at a distance, right? Not someone who goes up close and personal face to face with an enemy and starts doing some 3-second casting animation just to get his face punched in. But that's just my 2 cents. Anyway, moving on. Alright, so now we have what I believe to be one of the more fun spells in the Magic of Dominance, which is Word of Dominance. Now this spell can put under your control any NPCs who is not named in the world, and is also a human. So yeah, I had a lot of fun with this spell, and it's also a great way to get companions on demand, which is why this is a solid day. Alright, so next we have Bless Weapon. Now Bless Weapon is only a C+ for a couple of reasons. Bless Weapon allows you to increase the damage of your weapon by 10. Now, it doesn't scale, so you have weapons in the modded version which go all the way to 300, 400 and so on. And on a late game weapon, plus 10 damage is not a big deal. The second reason is that it costs 175 mana. So that's a problem if you wanted to cast it as a warrior on your weapon and you would use a spell scroll. Now there's no way you're gonna get 175 mana on a warrior. I mean, unless you're going to spend skill points on mana, that's an option, but otherwise it's just not going to happen. So it's a little bit restricted. Now as a mage, you can still cast this on weapons, but mostly you'll be using staves. And you can only cast this on combat staves, not magic staves. So you can cast it on staves which give you armor, which are also staves with higher base damage, but you cannot cast it on magical staves which give you plus mana, for instance, which is the ones that you really want. So yeah, it's kind of niche. I mean, sure, it's plus 10 damage, but it's just not a big deal. Plus 10 damage is really not a big deal in this game. And bless damage itself, the damage itself is not exactly doing anything special against undead, if that's what you're thinking. So it's kind of meh. Sure, it has some uses, but for the most part, it's very underwhelming. Moving on to another S-rank spell, Meteor. Now, Meteor is one of my favorite spells, and it's also the highest damage single target spell in the game, which I rightfully call the Hammer. It's not exactly true when I say that it's single target. It does single target damage, but it also has a little splash area around the target. So if there's a bunch of enemies grouped up together, then you have a chance to damage them all together with a really strong spell. So that's great. So this spell one-shots most enemies in the game, except those who have a really large health pool or have fire resistance, such as dragons. Dragons are not really taking a lot of damage from Meteor because it deals fire damage. But otherwise, everything else is fair game, one shot. And we are finally at the last spell in the Dominance tree, which is Fire Rain. Now, unfortunately, this is only an A-. The game really treats this spell, or wants you to believe that this spell is some ultimate super powerful spell. However, it's not really. This spell has 3 problems which hold it back from being amazing. First, you can only have 1 ultimate spell per magic school. In order for you to learn this spell, you need to become a fire magician. If you're not a fire magician, you cannot learn this. Secondly, the mana cost is absolutely huge. And thirdly, the damage is quite low when compared to Flame Wave. Yes, the area is bigger, but in practice, higher damage is better than a bigger area. Which is why Fire Rain is only an A-. And my preferred AoE method is still Flame Wave. There are certain situations and scenarios where Fire Rain is better than Flame Wave, but most of the time you'll be running around using Flame Wave as your main AoE source. So yeah, if I were to rank the spells by the way they look, this will certainly be number 1, because this looks bloody glorious. Unfortunately, in the terms of damage, it needs some help, so it needs to be comboed with another spell, which I will be presenting to you a little bit later. So that was it for the Magic of Dominance school tree, and overall it's a really consistent and balanced magic tree. You have great damage, you have great single target, area of effect damage, you have healing, self-healing, group healing, a bunch of utility spells, you have summonings. It's just great. Overall, you cannot go wrong with this tree. It's really good. Next up, we have what I consider to be the best of the magic schools, and that is transformation magic. Starting off, unfortunately, with Telekinesis, which is a D rank spell. And that might seem a little bit weird, but just bear with me, trust me, it's going to get better, a lot better. Now, Telekinesis is a spell which had a certain purpose in Gothic 1, and it didn't see much use in Gothic 2, and it's still a meme in Gothic 3. There's really no reason to use this. Never have I ever thought, oh, how I wish I had Telekinesis in this situation. This is a spell for fun, like, it's just for fun. It's more, actually it's kind of here to balance out how great the other spells in this transformation magic school are. That's what I think. So moving on. Going from 0 to hero, summon animals is one of the best spells in the game, and you can get this very early, and it provides an amazing amount of utility. It's good early game, it's good mid game, it's good late game, it combos very well with other abilities, and it can help you take on encounters which otherwise you would not be able to. So let's say you want to take out a troll. You just use summon animals on him and you set the other animals around him, such as snappers, to attack him. So automatically he's too busy attacking a bunch of snappers, so you're going to have a very easy time killing him. Or if you have a bunch of shadow beasts, you can use summon animals on one of them and they start attacking each other. Now naturally, taking on 3 shadow beasts is really difficult at the beginning of the game, but with summon animals it's totally possible. So this spell is just solid A. It's a great spell, totally good, solid, highly recommended. Even if you're not playing a mage, you should keep some spell scrolls of this spell in your inventory, because you might possibly make use of them. It has a low mana cost. What more do you want? It's just use it. It's great. Moving on for a great spell to something even more amazing, which is Tame. Tame allows you to put under your control an animal. Based on your ancient knowledge skill, you can control different animals. So with 40 ancient knowledge, you can take control of a snapper. If you have 100 ancient knowledge, you can take control of a shadow beast. Now let me tell you, putting a shadow beast under your control is absolutely amazing, and it can allow you to take on a lot of the hardest challenges in the game. Now needless to say, you can also have a companion, a human companion, and also tame a beast, so you can go about with 2 companions at the same time, which will make your early game or mid game all the way to the very end of the game very easy. Now in my let's play I use this spell a lot, and my favorite companion was a shadow beast which I called Sharky, and Sharky was just amazing. So we managed to take on a cave which I after the fact I called the belly of the beast. The most insane cave you can possibly imagine. It had mine crawlers, it had skeletons, it had zombies, it had gargoyles, it had minecrawler warriors, it just had it all. It was an absolute insane cave, and for the level I was tackling that cave, it was just way out of my league. However, I had Sharky, and Sharky was doing an amazing job. He was tanking like a beast, he was dealing a lot of damage, he was taking aggro from me. We were just a great tag team, so I fully enjoyed it, so I highly recommend this spell. I mean, it's just amazing. What more can I say? This spell also has a great synergy with the spell from Magic of Dominance called Heal Other. So whenever you and your companion are in combat, you'll find that if you take on very tough opponents and the combat lasts for a couple of minutes, or I don't know, 1 minute, your companion will start to take a lot of damage. So the only way to heal him is with Heal Others. If you have a beast, you cannot give it any potions. If you have a human, you can give him potions, but outside of the combat. But if you are inside the combat and you don't want to lose that companion, whether it's a human or a beast, then you have to use Heal Other. So it has a really good synergy. Also, a very important thing to note about how aggro works. In order for someone to take aggro, he has to land 2 hits on the enemy. So whether it's you or your companion, whether it's a human or a beast, If they land 2 hits, then they'll take aggro. So what you want to do is let your beast attack twice and then hit 1 time yourself, and then let your beast do 1 more hit and then hit 1 more time yourself. So never do 2 hits, just do 1 and 1. Also, another very important thing, and why Tame is absolutely amazing, is because beasts in general, whether it's snappers or shadow beasts, they attack very fast. So unlike humans who use swords and they block and they strafe and they dodge and they whatever, they take a long time to decide what they want to do. Beasts just go there, bam, bam, bam. You know, they just have the attack speed, the ferocity. They don't waste a lot of time. So in many ways, I value beasts even more than companions, which is why Tame is absolutely amazing, because there are few things better or stronger than a shadow beast. And this magic tree just keeps on delivering on the goodness, because next we have Ice Lance, formerly known as Ice Block. Now, Ice Block in Gothic 1 and 2 was the absolute best thing you could have. Once you had Ice Block, you were the master of any duel possible. And it's still good in Gothic 3. Actually, I think it's S tier good. It still behaves in the same way, except that now it takes a little bit more scaling. So it scales in duration and damage with your ancient knowledge, and if you become a water mage, that doubles. So it's still absolutely amazing. It can still freeze for a very long time, and it can still help you win duels. It can help you in a lot of situations. You can lock down entire swarms of enemies. It's just as good as it always was, maybe even better now. It also combos very well with other spells, but also weapons and bows, so it makes it an extremely versatile and useful spell in many situations. Overall, it's a solid S rank and one of the most powerful spells in the game. Alright, so next we have one of the best utility spells in the game, namely Sleep. Now, Sleep was excellent in Gothic 1, it was good in Gothic 2, and is still great in Gothic 3. In fact, it's never been as good as it is in Gothic 3. In Gothic 3, you can use it both in combat to crowd control enemies, you can use it out of combat to get past some enemies that you don't want to deal with, or to get inside people's houses that you want to steal from, and it also combos with Master Thief. So when you put a target to sleep, you can crouch and basically rob them of everything they have, which is actually the best way in the game to make gold. So if you want gold and if you want resources, the combo between Sleep and Master Thief is the best you can get for that job. So this is a very versatile and useful utility spell. I cannot think of a time when I thought, Sleep should need a buff. It's just great, it's good, it's solid, it's a straight A. Next up we have Summon Goblin. Now, Summon Goblin is one of the earliest summoning spells you can get, and it's actually a very solid summoning spell for a companion. In the modded version, it also scales with ancient knowledge, so the more ancient knowledge you have, the more goblins you can summon, up to 3. And it also summons a normal goblin, a black goblin, and a shaman goblin. In the vanilla version or the unmodded version, it only summons a normal goblin, which is really sad. However, because I'm playing in the modded version, this summon goblin spell is an absolute straight A. It is just rock solid good. Considering how early you can get it, considering that it can scale very well, it is just very good to have. So A. And because the transformation magic tree was doing so well, now we need to get a hot poo poo spell to make up for that. And we get animal form. Now, in all the Gothic series, animal transformation or whatever, druid spell thingy where you transform into an animal is just not good. The only reason to use transformation at all is for some very niche situations where it provides some utility, such as sneaking past enemies, and that's why it's okay sometimes. It can also help you traverse the land faster, especially if you transform into a bloodfly, because you can jump from very high places and not get murdered. So that's good. However, for combat and damage purposes, transformations are just not worth your time. So animal form, as you can imagine, is just not useful, except for maybe some extremely niche situation where you see a bloodfly and you transform into a bloodfly. However, considering that bloodfly transformation potions are quite frequent, I don't really see the point of this, but okay, it gets a plus from a D because it has that possibility. 1 in 1,000, but there we go, we have it. Moving on. So here we have a bit of an interesting situation. In the case of Fireball and Flame Wave, I gave them A and consequently S ranks. Now here we have a bit of an inverse situation where Ice Lance has S and Ice Wave has an A+. And there's actually a very good reason for that. In most of the situations in the game, when you already have Flame Wave for instance, you will find that Flame Wave is enough to kill just about everything. And for the situations where it cannot kill everything, you'll be using Ice Lance to keep people in place. So those two are just about enough in between the two of them to demolish the entire game. Sometimes you may find a very good use for Ice Wave, and when you do use it, it is very good. It's actually incredibly useful and solid. But most of the time you just need Ice Lance and Flame Wave, so that's why Ice Wave is not an S rank, it's just an A+, which is really close to being an S rank. But there's just not enough situations where it's absolutely necessary, or it's rather an overkill, considering that you have Flame Wave, which is excellent, and you also have Ice Lance, and the two of them, the pair of them, take care of pretty much any scenarios that you can cover. And finally, this is my favorite spell in the entire game, hands down. Ice Explosion is absolutely amazing. It's one of the best, if not the best AoE. It's great for a single target, it can do AoE, it looks good, it feels good. You don't get it right off the bat, you need to do a special quest for it. And once you get it, you just pretty much stop using other AoEs, because this one just does it all. It has great burst damage, it has great mana consumption. I got nothing else, it's just really good. If you want a spell that can carry you through the game with both single target and great AoE, then Ice Explosion is the thing you're looking for. Once I got it, I pretty much used it everywhere. So I cannot recommend this enough. It's just really strong. Next up we have Open Locks. Now open locks can open any lock in the game. Now basically you'll only be using this spell to open the impossible locks, which are the most difficult ones. But even then, it's not that important. They give upwards of 1,000 gold, which is not great, not bad. It's just, if you want 1,000 gold, there we go. You open the impossible locks. So open locks can help you do that. The problem is it takes a lot of mana, so you need to invest into mana if you want to use it. However, you don't really necessarily need to learn this spell, because you'll find plenty of spell scrolls of open locks, which can do just that. So it's kind of up to you. It's a good thing though, I used it a lot, so there we go, it's a solid B. Now if Ice Explosion was the cake, then Time Bubble would definitely be the cherry on top. This is the strongest utility spell in the game. So if you want to absolutely demolish everything in the game, get Time Bubble. Whenever you place this thing, it will just completely lock down and freeze everything. You can bait monsters through the bubble and you just completely slow down entire areas. It combos with just about everything, but especially the S rank spells. So things with AoE like Ice Explosion, Flame Wave, stuff like that, and even Fire Rain, Hailstorm, everything that's got an AoE or whatever, shoot arrows through it, it's still great. It is just super good. Like once you get this spell, the game is over. Like the game has nothing to throw at you that can do anything about this bubble. This bubble is just insanely good. It's just super good, and it's actually my third favorite spell in the game. The first one would be Ice Explosion, and the second one we'll get to, but this absolutely recommend. It's just so good. Next up we have Summon Golem. Now this is a rock solid summoning spell. It's something I have used a lot. It's very sturdy, it does decent damage. If you want a distraction, something that can take a beating and last for a very long time, something that you can heal, it's pretty good. It's probably a little bit better than a Shadow Beast Tame. So there we go. It's great. It's a solid A+ spell in my book. So here we go, we have finally reached Hailstorm. Now Hailstorm is the ultimate spell for the transformation magic skill tree. However, it's the exact same thing as Firestorm, except that it shoots lightning from the sky. But otherwise, it does the exact same damage, it behaves in the same way, and it's still an A-. It's not a great spell to use by itself, but if you use it in conjunction with Time Bubble, which I'll show you later on, it is absolutely a beast and it's great. However, it's sort of mana hungry, so make sure you bring a lot of mana potions if you want to use this. Otherwise, Ice Explosion is simply the best AoE and the only one that you'll need for most situations. Hailstorm is good for some niche cases where the area of effect needs to be larger and you need to place the AoE down without necessarily having a constant target. Or if you have like a bunch of enemies coming at you, you're blocking the way with Bubble and you're putting Hailstorm in, then it's a really good way. It's like a great drag bubble, I'll show you later. Otherwise, A-. So we have finished the transformation magic skill tree, which was really good. In my opinion, is the best, is the most versatile. It has a lot of spells which can complement each other, which can do some really nice combos. Overall, really solid. Like if you want to breeze through the game, transformation magic is the way to go about it. Alright, so now we are at the final school of magic called Summoning Magic, and unfortunately we have to start with the hot poo poo spell, that is Transfer Disease. This spell is garbage, garbage. Do not use this. I mean, you cannot even use this in some useful situation. The thing is, the only place I would consider this useful is if some lizard attacked you, he gave you a disease, and you went and fought somebody in the arena and you transfer disease to him. But that takes time. It takes time to cast. So in the arena, if you start doing shenanigan casting stuff, you will likely die right there and then. The only things that you can actually cast in the arena are fireballs or things like that, or ice lances, things that are fast, snappy, and stagger the opponent so they don't have a chance to react to you. Otherwise, this spell is just hot poo-poo. I've never used this. I don't want to use it. I don't want to imagine how to use it. It's for fun. Okay, so this is a funsy one. Moving on. Next up, we have another poo-poo spell called Poison. Now, the reason this is not a D and it's a C is because it has some limited ways to combo with other spells, namely with Ice Lance. So ideally you'd cast Poison on something, which does apparently percentage damage, and then you'd cast Ice Lance on it, so you keep it poisoned and the poison stacks tick. That's the way you use it. Or you can run around like a lunatic kiting with poison, but it's just not good, and it doesn't really scale in a way that you think this would be a good thing or useful in any way. So there we go. In my opinion, poison and, well, no, just in case of poison. Okay, poison and fire damage, like burning damage when you set somebody on fire, they are some nice extra ways of dealing a little bit more damage. You cannot build for this stuff. Like, you cannot make a build focused on poison or burning. It's just not that good. Alternatively, there's better ways to poison even. You can use a poisoned weapon, you can use a poisoned arrow and bow, so that's a better way to poison, because poison, as the spell, uses mana, and it has a pretty long casting time, so it's hot poo-poo. It can work, that's why it's a C, it has some niche uses, but otherwise it's hot poo-poo. Moving on. Next up, we have yet another gimmicky spell, Amnesia. Well, let's say you enter a fight with someone and they become orange to you, and every time they see you, they draw their weapon trying to smack you in the face. And now you have Amnesia, so you try to use Amnesia on that guy after he decides to chill out a bit, so in a way that he won't see you casting it, or in a way that he won't see you coming. And what that will do is they will forget about it and be reset to normal. So that's good. That's why, well, it's not good, it's okay, because mostly you can just reload the save, but let's say you don't have a save and you really need a way, then Amnesia is the only way to do it. So if you piss off someone important, you will need to use Amnesia. The reason why it's a B minus and not just a B, because it's an okay spell, is because the range of Amnesia is really low. So what happens is that most times the NPCs will aggro you as you approach them to cast Amnesia on them before you get to them. So they'll be like, haha, I see you. They draw your weapon and try to hack you into pieces. And then you won't be able to cast Amnesia. They need to be chilling when you try to cast Amnesia. So yeah, I don't know. Why doesn't this spell have a long range? It beats me, but this is the way it is. B minus. And now we finally get to a spell which is a really good spell in this tree, and that is Lightning Bolt. Between the trio of Fireball, Ice Lance, and Lightning Bolt, the Lightning Bolt is actually really good. It's an A+ because it does the most damage and it has an innate stagger effect. So if you throw this, if you spam this constantly, then that one thing you're shooting it at will probably not be able to react to anything. So as long as you have mana, you can pretty much lock down any enemy, well, most enemies in the game with this spell, which makes it incredibly valuable, more valuable than the Fireball. Not as good as Ice Bolt, but still very good. So there we go. Terror. Just like how this entire magic tree makes me feel. Terror. Yet another gimmicky spell. It is just a spell for a little bit of fun. Otherwise, I don't really see some way to use this in some respectful way. If you want to be a douchebag and waste your time, then I suppose you can try this somehow. I don't get it. You cannot use it on anything impactful. You can make some citizens run away and then come back later. So maybe if you want to get rid of some guards and for some godforsaken reason you don't have a sleep spell, get a sleep spell. Or okay, use terror, suit yourself, but seriously, get a sleep spell. Moving on. Okay, so do you know how I said that basically I didn't like vanilla because you'd have to cast Flame Wave in the face of your enemies? Well, Fog is a gimmicky spell which is supposed to help with that. Basically, you cast this black fog, which is a stationary thing around you, so if you move you lose it. But you cast black fog and enemies come to kill you, but they can't because they can't find you. So instead they sit at the edge of this black fog waiting. So technically you could cast black fog, let them come to you, shoot your flame wave or whatever once or twice, and then recast fog and then do another to cast a flame wave. Rinse and repeat. So that's one way you could technically do it. It's really gimmicky and sometimes it doesn't work as you'd expect it to, but it does eventually work. So that's why it's a C+. It's a super niche thing. I would not count for this at all, and the biggest issue I have with it is that it takes a hell of a lot of mana. So I mean, at this mana cost, I don't really see it being functional. I mean, if it cost 30 mana or 20 mana and it would have an ancient knowledge of 20, then Fog would actually be a reasonable way to defend yourself as a mage. But as it stands, 80 mana is way too much, and it doesn't last long enough for it to justify that mana cost. And it's way too gimmicky and sometimes it'll get you killed. C+, no. Use mods. Moving on. Up next we have one of the better gimmicky spells yet. Bloodlust. Bloodlust is sort of like summon animals, except that it also works on humans. However, it only works on one guy at a time, so you cast it on one guy and that one guy goes berserk and starts attacking things. Now, of course, if the things he's attacking are part of some group, so for instance you cast it on a shadow beast and there's a whole pack of bison, then the moment the shadow beast attacks one bison, the whole pack of bison will attack the shadow beast. So that's very cool. However, it's supposed to work mostly on humans. So if you ever have some deep desire to take out an entire city by having people kill each other, then Bloodlust is the way to go. However, this spell has some major issues. First, it takes a lot of ancient knowledge, and secondly, it takes a lot of mana. And thirdly, and which is my biggest gripe with it, is that you won't get experience from them killing each other, so somehow you still have to get your hands dirty. Unless you don't want experience, but you do want experience. I mean, if you miss out on the experience, don't use Bloodlust, because the experience is important in this game. So yeah, I guess for some reason you could do some gimmicky things other than to take down an entire city. So yeah, I suppose it's B. It's an okay spell. I think this one is okay. It's kind of over the top, but it can have some creative uses. If you're a creative person, you may find Bloodlust to be entertaining. So there we go. B. Finally, we are getting into the meat of this summoning magic skill tree with Summoning Skeleton. Skeletons are great. They were great in Gothic 1, Gothic 2, and they are still great in Gothic 3. However, because I'm playing the modded version, this summon skeleton spell will scale with ancient knowledge. Therefore, I will have a maximum of 3 skeletons, and they'll be like a melee guy, a shield guy, and an archer guy, which is great. If you're playing the vanilla version of Gothic 3, then you only get one single boring skeleton, so suit yourself. Anyway, 3 skeletons make this spell an A+. Skeletons are always great. Having multiple bodies is always great because they have a better way of keeping aggro. So what else can I say? It's very good. It'll be very consistent. Previously in Gothic 2 and Gothic 1, you could cast the same summon skeleton spell multiple times. So you could have like 6, 10, 12, 11, how much mana do you want to spend? Now, however, it is limited by the game itself. So the mod gives you 3 of them, 3 of them is plenty of them. So with 3 skeletons, you can do a lot of good things. Therefore, this makes it a very good and reliable spell, which I also like a lot. So there we go, A+, solid summoning spells. Well, I didn't expect anything else from the summoning spell tree, but there we go, we got a lot of gimmicky stuff, and now we're finally getting the actual summoning stuff, the reason why we came here. Moving on. Because we didn't get enough gimmicky stuff from this spell tree, well, now we have another one. Soul travel, everybody. Clap clap, enjoy another gimmicky spell. What does this one do? You just leave your body as a spirit and you move very slowly in whichever direction you want, as far as you'd like to. So if you'd like to visit the entire map in your soul form, suit yourself. I imagine this spell is used to scout ahead, but to be honest, I never really felt or even thought about needing to. So gimmicky, yeah, I mean, what can I say? This would actually be more than a D, maybe a C minus, if, well, actually more like a B. If you could actually teleport or get your body in the place where you release the spell. So if you travel from one part to the other of Myrtana, then at the destination you could release the spell and get your body there. But it doesn't work like that. You just go back to where you started, therefore making this a scouting spell, I suppose, that I've never even thought of using or needing, or giving it more than a D, because it's a gimmicky I'm not interested in. Maybe they wanted, actually, now that I think about it, maybe they wanted to implement some really kinky stuff into the game, and soul form would be a great way to get into nasty places to spy on unaware people for the various reasons. Let's leave it like that, okay? Okay, so I gave this gimmicky one a C minus because, in all honesty, there was at least one time when I thought that having it could be useful, but it was just one time, okay? Calm down, everybody. It was just one time. Moving on. Summon Demon. Now everything I said about Summon Golem applies to Summon Demon. They're pretty much one and the same. Actually, I prefer the Golem more because everything with the sword is kinda clumsy and doesn't attack very fast. However, it's still good. It does good damage. I think it does a little bit more damage than Summon Golem, but anyway, I see them as equal. So the summoning magic tree gives you 2 options here. So either you summon skeletons, which gives you 3 bodies, or you summon 1 big body in form of Summon Demon, which is also easy to heal. Basically, it's up to you. I personally prefer the skeletons, but both options are viable. You came for the summoning tree, you get the summonings. There we go. I know that some of you might be surprised after all the gimmicky stuff we had, but I think this magic tree saved the best for last. So here we get Summon Lightning, which is pretty much the meteor equivalent from domination magic. It does the exact same thing, except that it does lightning damage. So it's just like with Firestorm and Hailstorm. There we go, it's the same thing. It's Meteor was S, Summon Lightning is still S. They both are the best single targets in the game, so I got nothing. They just look thematically different, and maybe the cost is a little bit lower on the Lightning. Considering how much gimmick you had to put up with, this is fine by me. It won't matter in the long run, but there we go. If you like Lightning, if you like that Chidori, if you like that Kirin, if you're a Sasuke fan, if you roll with Lightning, then this is for you. Have at it, enjoy. Alright everybody, looks like we've made it. This is the end of the road, and we have saved the best for absolute last. Army of Darkness. This was my favorite spell in Gothic 2. It was good in Gothic 1, but it had the issue with companion pathing, so it's kind of annoying to use. But here it's back, and it's still as badass as it was before. Army of Darkness is an absolute solid S+, and it's my second favorite spell. The first one being Ice Explosion, the third one being Bubble. And there we go, there we have it, bros. This spell is an absolute world killer, a boss demolisher. Like, you can take on anything with Army of Darkness. It just doesn't have a limit. It's absolutely great. So if you want to roll around with some skellies around you, then this will serve you superbly. It is absolutely glorious to use. It's super strong, and I'm sure it won't let you down. Alright everybody, so I know this video is 1 hour long, and I super apologize for it, but I really enjoyed making it. And I know that I promised you some spell combinations, and I am going to keep my promise and give them to you. So if you've made it this far, you are a legend. And I'm going to show you some basic spell combinations that I've used on my Let's Plays. They're not super ingenious, they're not anything that you're probably not anticipating. I mean, I've kind of covered some of the combinations already, but I thought that it's worth mentioning just so I can get this off my chest. So there we go, let's do it. Combinations, let's go! Alright, so one of my favorite combos that you can get super early on is Tame Beast with Heal Others. You can have one companion human, and then you can tame one beast, so naturally you're going to have two companions. Now you're going to use Heal Other only in situations where you're going up against a tough group, right? So you're not going to spam this spell outside of combat, because in the beginning you don't have mana regeneration, you don't have a large mana pool, but you're going to use it during combat so you prevent your companions from dying. Otherwise, just run around and make sure you don't do double hits, so you let your companions tank for you. And one gimmicky thing you can do is reload a save to heal them back to full percentage, if that's something you like to do. If not, well, then use Heal Other, it's great. You can give healing potion to your human companion, but you cannot give any healing potions to your beast, to the one that you use Tame on. So that's why you need Heal Others. Anyway, this combo is great, and having companions follow you around will help you out immensely in the beginning. Another combo which I have enjoyed using a lot and is very efficient, especially in the early and mid game, is Fireball and Ice Lance, cast exactly in that order. So what's going to happen is that the Fireball burning will keep burning while the beast is in the ice block. Additionally, you can combo this with melee attacks or range attacks from bow, or simply getting enough distance between you and the target so you can recast this combo, which makes it extremely efficient. Alright, so the idea behind this combination, guys, is that to use one utility ability from the column on the left, whether it's summon animals, frost wave, or time bubble, just to get the enemies together or get them stuck together, you know, and then just nuke them with an AoE ability from the column of the left on the right, whether it's flame wave, ice explosion, or hailstorm. In this example, in this clip that I'm playing right now, I use time bubble with hailstorm, and I said that hailstorm is an A- ability. However, when you combine it in an area where you have to nuke a large area and you block the entrance with time bubble, it's an absolutely godlike ability, so it even outshines ice explosion. Yes, ice explosion is generally better as an AoE. However, when you make this crazy combination of time bubble and hailstorm, it just absolutely wrecks everything. It's like they have no chance. They just have no chance. Alright, so that's it for this video, guys. I had a lot of fun making this. So yeah, it was actually very fun and very interesting. So I'm sorry it's 1 hour long. I know some of you don't really have the time to watch all this or to even listen. I'm not sure. Let me know in the comment section below if you're actually listening to this as a podcast or if you're actually watching to see what's going on the screen. I'm very curious. I'm sorry again that it's this long, but I really had to get all my thoughts on this. I finished playing all the series now, all the trilogies, so Gothic 1, 2, and 3, and Forsaken Gods. So I'm about to make and release a review of Gothic 3 and Forsaken Gods. But before I do that, I wanted to get my thoughts out on the combat system, which I really enjoyed. I enjoyed it the most in the trilogy. And especially playing as a mage, right? With the crazy spell combinations. That was the most fun part of all of it. So yeah, thank you guys for watching or for listening. If you have any questions or feedback or do you want to talk, let me know what you guys thought about these combinations. Let me know what your favorite combination is, or do you even play a mage? Do you even mage? Let me know in the comment section if you play a mage. Alright. That's it, guys. Thanks again and have a good day.